Osaka Castle, 1598. The annual tournament before the emperor. 3,000 spectators, drums echoing off stone, banners snapping in the wind. Ryota, 22 years old, the pride of his dojo, stepped into the arena carrying 17 straight victories like armor. Across from him stood a nobody, a mountain ronin with no formal training, no lineage, no reputation. The signal sounded. 8 seconds later, it was over. Ryota froze. Not fear he could name, just blankness. His body refused to move, while the ronin's wooden sword cracked across his face once, twice, 3 times before Ryota even lifted his weapon. Silence hit first, then laughter, then whispers that followed him for 3 years. Later, he would read words attributed to Musashi. You can only fight the way you practice. But presence and power teaches the deeper blade hidden inside that sentence. You can only live the way you practice. And when your practice collapses your discipline, your purpose, your identity, you don't just fail at your craft. You fail at being yourself. This is the story of a warrior who lost everything, not to injury and not to a superior opponent, but to something more devastating. He lost his sense of self. And the journey back from that darkness, that is the path most people never talk about. The question isn't whether you'll fall. It's whether you'll build the power to return when you do. Chapter 1. The Awakening. 3 days after the duel, Ryota sat alone in his family estate, staring at the sword he could no longer touch. 22 years of training, 17 wins. His master's praise, his father's pride, his village's hope destroyed in 8 seconds. The bruises on his face would fade in days. The wound inside him only grew. He replayed the moment endlessly, the ronin approaching, the crowd watching, the signal to begin, and then nothing. No thought, no strategy. A void where his training should have been. In that void he met a terrifying truth. He didn't know who he was without victory. For his entire life, Ryota had been the disciplined one. Dawn training, forms until sunset, meditation at night, no indulgence, no distractions, no detours. His identity was discipline. His purpose was practice. His worth was skill. And that single moment under pressure exposed how fragile it all was. Week 1, the unraveling. He tried to return to training, but his hands shook on the hilt. His master, Taida Sensei, watched quietly. Ryota, you're gripping too tightly. I know, Ryota whispered, unable to stop. Every movement felt mechanical, dead. Perhaps you need rest, Taida offered. I don't need rest. I need. Ryota stopped, because he didn't know what he needed. Students trained around him, some pity, some whispers, younger students avoiding his eyes. After an hour, Taida stepped close. Go home. Come back when you're ready. I am ready. Taida's voice was calm, final. You're here, but you're not present. That night, for the first time in 8 years, Ryota skipped meditation. It felt like relief, like taking off armor he'd worn too long. Month 2, the descent, he stopped going to the dojo. Just a few days, he told himself, but days became weeks. He started drinking, not heavily at first, just enough to quiet the voice that screamed, fraud. Failure. Coward. His father confronted him. You shame our family. Ryota's reply came cold. I already did. What's a little more? You dishonor your training. Ryota snapped. My training betrayed me. The words erupted before he could stop them. I trained my whole life, and when it mattered, I froze. My discipline meant nothing. My practice was worthless. I was living a lie. His father slapped him, then rebuild. Ryota's eyes didn't flinch. I can't. You mean you won't? I mean, I don't know who I am anymore. The warrior I thought I was, he never existed. So, who am I supposed to rebuild? His father left without an answer, because he didn't have one. Month 4, the darkness, Ryota sank fully. Days sleeping, nights drinking, family money burned on sake in gambling. The warrior who once rose before dawn couldn't rise before noon. The man who ate simply gorged on excess. The one who spoke of honor spat on every principle he had once sworn to. Worst of all, he felt nothing. No guilt, no shame, only emptiness. One night in Osaka's streets, he stumbled into a group of samurai from his old dojo. Kenji, a former partner, stared in shock. "Ryota, is that you?" Ryota was unshaven and hollow-eyed. "What happened to you?" Ryota slurred. "I found out who I really am. Not the warrior everyone thought. Just nothing." Kenji's face softened into pity, and that pity cut deeper than insult. "Come back. Taida-sensei, he can't fix me," Ryota muttered. "Nobody can. There's nothing left to fix." He staggered away into the dark. Month 6, rock bottom. A monk found him collapsed in an alley, barely conscious, having not eaten in 3 days. The monk was old, eyes sharp, voice steady. "You're dying." Ryota rasped. "Good." The monk shook his head. "Not of hunger, of absence. You've removed yourself from existence while still breathing." Ryota tried to laugh. "You don't understand." The monk's reply was quiet and merciless. "I understand perfectly. You lost a duel, and because you couldn't face that loss, you decided to lose everything else too." Those words pierced the numbness like a blade through silk. "Who are you?" Ryota whispered. "Someone who walked the same path. I reached the end. And what's at the end? Death or rebirth? Your choice. But you must choose soon. This path only goes one direction." The monk stood. "If you want the other path, the one that leads back, come to Koyasan Temple. 3rd bell after dawn." Ryota spat. "Why would I come?" The monk looked down without judgment. "Because despite everything, some part of you still wants to live. Not just breathe. Live. That part will bring you." He left. Ryota lay there staring at the sky for hours, feeling nothing until something stirred. Not hope. Not strength. Just curiosity. What if there is a way back? Chapter 2. Rebirth through death. 3 days later, Ryota arrived at Koyasan unwashed, hungover, half convinced it was pointless. The monk introduced himself only as Bodhidharma. He pointed to a mat. "Sit." For an hour, they sat in silence. Ryota's mind screamed. His body itched. The stillness felt unbearable. Finally, Ryota blurted, "Why am I here?" Bodhidharma answered, "Because you think you lost yourself." "I did." "No," the monk said firmly. "The problem is, you think there was ever a fixed self to lose." Ryota frowned. "Before the duel, who were you? A warrior, disciplined, skilled, honorable." Bodhidharma's eyes narrowed. "Were those what you were or what you did?" "What's the difference?" "Everything." He lit incense. Smoke rose shapeless and free. "The warrior you built 17 victories. Reputation, your father's pride that was a construct. An identity built on external outcomes. When the outcome cracked, you shattered." Ryota's jaw tightened. "Then what am I supposed to be?" Bodhidharma replied, "Nothing. Everything. You don't need to be anything. You need to practice. Identity is not a statue. Identity is motion." Ryota snapped, "I tried and it failed." "You practice performance," Bodhidharma said. "Not presence. Performance collapses under pressure. Presence holds." Then the monk's voice softened, as if speaking beyond the room. "Men across time will face what you faced, building worth on achievement and approval, then losing it in one moment. Presence and power exists for that moment, not to teach you how to never fail, but how to rebuild when failure destroys the mask. The warrior path isn't never losing yourself. It's finding the way back when you do." Ryota felt something shift, not certainty, but recognition. "So how do I rebuild?" Bodhidharma's answer was simple and brutal. "You don't rebuild who you were. You build from nothing. True rebirth. Ryota swallowed. That's impossible. Good, the monk said. Then you're ready to begin. Chapter 3. The test starting from 0. Day 1. Bodhidharma placed a wooden practice sword in Ryota's hands. Today you will practice your first sword form. Ryota stared. I've done forms 10,000 times. Not today, the monk said. Today you practice for the first time. Everything before is dead. Start as if you've never held a sword. It felt humiliating. But Ryota had nothing left to protect. The moment his fingers closed around the wood, his hand trembled. The tournament flooded back, freezing, laughter, shame. The sword slipped from his grip and clattered to the ground. Bodhidharma nodded. Good. Ryota blinked. Good. For 6 months you felt nothing. Now you feel fear. Fear is life returning. Ryota's throat tightened. I can't do this. Correct, the monk said. The old Ryota can't. He is dead. But the Ryota being born right now has no past failure. He hasn't frozen. He hasn't been humiliated. Ryota shook his head. That's not true. Bodhidharma's gaze didn't move. Make it true. That is practice, choosing who you become in each moment. Ryota picked up the sword again, still trembling. First form, Bodhidharma said. Overhead strike. Not from memory, from presence. Feel the weight. Feel the breath. Move. Ryota tried to snap into perfect technique muscle memory, chasing the old image. Stop, Bodhidharma commanded. You're performing. There is no right. There is only now. 50 repetitions. Technically worse than his old form, but each one more alive. By the end, he was exhausted not in his arms, but in his mind. How was it? The monk asked. Ryota whispered, terrible. My form was awful. Bodhidharma replied, your form was awful. Your technique was alive. For the first time in years, you weren't acting like a warrior. You were present. That's the foundation. Week 2, resistance, every day the same basics. No advancement, no praise. Ryota's ego screamed, I'm better than this. Bodhidharma observed calmly, that voice is the old identity trying to resurrect itself. Let it scream. Don't argue. Return to breath. Return to movement. Pride, shame, comparison each day surfaced, each day released. Week 4, the shift. One morning, Ryota raised the sword and nothing trembled. No panic, no performance hunger, just motion. His form wasn't perfect, but it was real. Bodhidharma simply nodded. You're ready for the next stage. What stage? Ryota asked. Learning who you actually are when you're not trying to be anything. Chapter 4. Warrior Psychology. The Science of Losing and Finding Yourself. Month 2. At the temple. Bodhidharma gathered Ryota and other men who had collapsed in similar ways. Today, he said, you learn why you fell and why you can rise. He explained identity collapse. Ryota built worth on outcomes, wins, reputation, approval. This is conditional self-worth. When the condition disappears, the self collapses. Then he spoke of the brain. Repeated actions wire neural pathways. Ryota's mind practiced winning and maintaining an image, so it had no pathway for loss under public pressure system crash. But then the turning point, neuroplasticity. The brain can rewire through repetition at any age, after any trauma. The old pathways weaken through disuse, new ones strengthen through daily present practice. You are not rebuilding the old Ryota, Bodhidharma said. That is biologically impossible. You are building a new pattern, a new power. He tied it to stoic truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Ryota had handed power to a single dual's outcome. Real power is what you practice daily when nobody is watching. He returned to Musashi's deeper meaning. Don't let your mind stop on one strike. Don't let one victory define you. Don't let one defeat destroy you. flow through all circumstances. The warrior who must win is fragile, Bodhidharma concluded. The warrior who can lose and continue is unstoppable. Chapter 5. The First Transformation. The Duel He Couldn't Lose. Month 4. A traveling samurai arrived at the temple and demanded a challenge. Bodhidharma turned to Ryota. I offer you the chance to accept. Every nerve in Ryota screamed no. He felt the tournament rising in his chest. I can't, he said. Bodhidharma nodded. Correct. The old Ryota can't. But the Ryota, who has practiced presence for 4 months, what does he choose? Ryota whispered, I'm not ready. Ready for what? The monk asked. To win? To impress? To prove? Those are old chains. I'm asking, are you present enough to step forward and simply be there? That question changed everything. Not can I win, can I remain present, regardless of outcome? Ryota bowed. I'll do it. In the courtyard, 20 monks watched. The challenger attacked hard and fast. The old Ryota would have frozen or rushed to prove himself. The new Ryota responded without narration, breath, weight, movement. 3 minutes passed. No decisive victor. Both landed strikes. When they separated, Ryota realized the true victory. He had been present the entire time. The challenger bowed deeply. You are the most present opponent I've faced. Afterward, Bodhidharma asked, how do you feel? Ryota searched for the old emotions, pride, shame, and found neither. I don't know, he said. I'm just here. Bodhidharma answered, that is mastery, not achieving an image holding presence. But one duel wasn't the end. It was a test of whether Ryota would turn presence into a new performance mask. Chapter 6. Deep Training Arc the Long Road Back. Month 6. Bodhidharma introduced advanced training, not more technique, but deeper presence. A strict schedule, 4-0A. Wake with no negotiation, 4:15 Zazen for 90 minutes. 6-0 forms for 2 hours. 8-0 temple duties. 12-0 study of philosophy and strategy. 2-0 conditioning. 4-0 free practice. 6-0 evening meditation. 8-0 reflection and sleep. Every day. No exceptions. This, Bodhidharma taught, is how you build power, not dramatic change, consistent, present action. Then came shadow work. Discipline isn't enough, he said. You must face what you're hiding from. He forced Ryota to describe the tournament in detail, every sensation, every sound of laughter, every collapse of identity. Ryota resisted until words finally broke free. Then tears. Not a weakness release. Bodhidharma nodded. The wound isn't the problem. Refusing to acknowledge it creates weakness. Now it's seen. Now it can heal. Month 8. During deep meditation, Ryota experienced a silence so complete it felt like standing in open sky. He saw the pattern, descent, collapse, rebuilding. He understood presence and power as method, not motivation. Daily practice, present action. Rebuilding from now, not from the past. Year 2, the identity that couldn't break. Ryota was not the warrior he had been. He was more real, less polished, more present, less perfect. Technique improved, but it wasn't the point. Presence deepened, that was everything. Students watched him and felt something different than admiration. They felt truth. One asked, how did you come back? Ryota replied, I didn't come back. That person is dead. I built forward. Chapter 7. The Final Confrontation Facing the Past. Year 3. Bodhidharma said, You're ready to return to Osaka. Ryota's stomach tightened. I don't need to. Bodhidharma's voice was steady. Yes, you do. Not to prove anything. To complete the circle, to face the place of your death, and show yourself you've been reborn. They traveled to Osaka Castle. Same arena. Same ceremony. Same crowd. This time, Ryota came only to watch. Then a voice called from the stands. "Ryota?" Taida-sensei stepped forward, shock and questions in his eyes. Ryota bowed. "I disappeared," Taida said. "We thought many things. I lost myself," Ryota answered. "I spent 3 years finding a way forward." Taida studied him. "You're different." "I'm present," Ryota said. "I wasn't before," Taida asked. "Will you compete?" Fear rose. "What if I freeze again?" Then the truth returned. Outcome is not the anchor. Presence is. "Yes," Ryota said. The final duel was announced, and fate sharpened the blade. His opponent was the same Ronin who had humiliated him 3 years earlier. The crowd murmured. The rematch. They bowed, drew swords, began. Ryota was there with no proof, no performance, no identity to protect. The Ronin attacked. Ryota flowed. No freeze, no panic, just response. The duel was beautiful, not because it was perfect, but because it was honestly 2 men fully present. When it ended, there was no clear victor, but Ryota barely heard the crowd erupt because the victory wasn't applause. The victory was that he stood inside the moment that once destroyed him and remained alive. Afterward, the Ronin approached. 3 years ago, you froze. Today, you flowed. What changed? Ryota answered. I stopped trying to be the warrior who never loses. I became the warrior who shows up. Win or lose, I'm here. The Ronin bowed. That is mastery. Final truth present day. Ryota, now 28, sat with Bodhidharma on the temple steps. I understand Musashi now, Ryota said. You can only fight the way you practice doesn't mean perfect technique. It means your daily life becomes your nervous system under pressure. I practiced being the perfect winner, so when perfection broke, I shattered. Then, I practiced my presence daily imperfectly, honestly, and when pressure returned, I had already practiced staying here. Bodhidharma nodded. Your practice is your identity, not your achievements, not your reputation. What you do, moment to moment, especially when nobody's watching, that is your power. Then he added the warning, most warriors fear losing a duel. The real loss is losing yourself, and that doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happens in small choices, skipping practice, living for image, attaching worth to outcomes. Those choices weaken the foundation until pressure arrives and collapse becomes inevitable. The way back is also small choices, consistent presence built daily, weekly, monthly. 6 months later, a young samurai, 20 years old, arrived at the temple defeated and desperate. Ryota saw his old self in the boy's eyes. Can you help me? The young man asked. Ryota answered, I can teach you what rebuilt me, but you must do the work. I'll do anything. Ryota led him to the practice ground and placed a wooden sword in his hands. Your first lesson, Ryota said, is the same one that saved me. You can only fight the way you practice. But this isn't about swords. It's about life. Everything you do daily is your practice. And when pressure comes, you'll respond exactly how you've practiced. So we practice presence. We practice realness. We practice showing up. He demonstrated the first form, slow, grounded, present. The student copied it imperfectly, but honestly. The circle continued. Lost becomes found. Student becomes teacher. Collapse becomes rebirth. Presence and power is that path method over motivation, practice over performance, presence over image. Because the question isn't if you'll lose yourself. The question is whether you'll commit to building the power to find your way back.